Yeah, we're taking a look at some more reacts here. Diving back in to some of our nostalgic cartoons. We got a few more to finish off, and then we're gonna be hopping into our anime section. It's gonna be a good tab. I feel like those episodes are gonna be fucking long, so that's gonna be interesting. But it's one more I definitely wanted to check out from my list. Today we're hopping into the Real World of Code Lyoko. Love this cartoon. This was one of those shows that I like would come on after school, and like I was running home to try to watch on, was it like Tuesdays or Thursdays, something like that. Amazing theme song, first of all. Like, hold on. First off, a French animated cartoon, I guess is what the French call their stuff cartoon. We got Japanese call their stuff anime. I put theme song. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's that good. That's that good. Ah, that's that good. Right here, it hits. The biggest heads in cartoon history. You thought Kingdom Hearts and all them had big ass heads when they were in their like chibi forms back in the day. Look at all that forehead in each one of them. Jesus. Alright, so we'll be looking at our Jordan Fringe here. We checked out a few of his videos as well. We checked out when we're looking at some of our sitcoms. So he's gonna give us a nice little breakdown here. Looks like he's got quite a little bit to say. I think this is one of the longest videos I've seen from him. They're usually around like 10-15 for like the ones we watch, I think.
Wait, remember Code Lyoko? I sure do. My comments section sure does, and this fellow over here does too. That's Billiam. He's a fan of long foreheads, just like me.
He's talking about me.
Code Lyoko was a French animated series that focused on a group of kids who constantly have to save the world from an onslaught of attacks from a violent and angry computer virus called Xana. It premiered.
Yes, so beautiful story. Since I'm saying this is like, I actually fuck with like the world and story of this show. A lot of people I feel like give a lot of hate just because it's got super big heads and whatnot, but what you got to get past and be able to like take in the story and whatnot. And it was a fire show as well. Like each episode was essentially Xana throwing a different attack. Like these guys they stumbled upon the supercomputer that was essentially able to virtualize their bodies into a digital world, and inside they find this girl trapped. So they're trying to find a way to bring her to the real world, since they know since apparently like there's some like software on there that they have been trying to apparently get her out of the computer in the first place. So this whole time they're thinking, I think the whole like first season, they're thinking this girl, aHEAD, is just a computer program, part of this world, Lyoko or whatever. It's like a game or whatever. And there's all these monsters and the evil supercomputer Xana in this world, but aHEAD seems to be the only like good thing in this world or whatever that's like not trying to kill them or whatever. Xana, even though he is also like a computer virus and like seeming to be the antagonist of this virtual world, is somehow able to not necessarily digitize himself, but able to influence the real world through like electronics and different means, through like technology and like possessing those things through his like computer virus skills, I guess, or through its computer virus skills, because apparently it's a virus or whatever. But come to the end of like the first season, you find out that aEHEAD is actually a human who also virtualized into the world just like they had at one point, but had got trapped there. So it becomes, instead of them just trying to bring this digital being into the real world, it becomes a rescue mission. And you come to find out there were like all these people after them and whatnot, after her, and apparently her father, who's the inventor of all this technology, including Xana, I believe, because Xana, I believe, is just supposed to be like a sort of like an AI man with the supercomputer. Um, and yeah, so you find out there were people after them and everything because of like the technology. I mean, you can literally virtualize people, like I believe, and then on top of it, the craziest ability, which I still don't understand fully, is that the supercomputer can also travel in time, can cause time to reverse. So like at the end of every episode, in most cases, like these, the first time they go through this shit, they are kind of not trash, but like Xana low key wins damn near every episode. Like he gets through and he at least does some damage, catches somebody getting hurt or wiped or something. And if it wasn't for the fact that there's a return to the past sequence that like they were able, that apparently is part of the supercomputer's protocols, where you can return like 24 hours into the past, and everybody who hasn't been virtualized into like the computer or whatnot forgets everything that happened this past 24 hours, and time literally just goes back and they're able to restart. It gets crazy. Like it's wild shit, but it obviously has all these interconnected, like the storytelling of this shit is actually really fun.
On
Like,
September
let's
3rd,
see what they can-
2003 on France 3 and premiered in the US on Cartoon Network half a year later on April 19th, 2004. And now,
so that's
nearly
how-
2 decades later, a couple of YouTubers are still talking about it. Wow, the internet is fun. Code Lyoko drops you right into the action and lets you infer over various episodes and piece together the world in which this takes place. A group of 4 friends, Yumi, Ulrich, aHEAD, and Jeremy, all have befriended a presumed AI girl named aHEAD. aHEAD exists in a virtual reality world called Lyoko, which is also home to that evil virus named Xana. Xana seems to stop at nothing to destroy the human dimension, and through various technological means is able to take over and manipulate various parts of the physical world. The group must enter Lyoko and assist aHEAD in reaching various towers to rid Xana of his command by entering Code Lyoko. Oh my god, that's like the name of the show. Due to aHEAD's predicament, they are all constantly working towards manifesting her into the real world. It's a quest to make her a material girl. Slay, but her backstory gets even more interesting, so just you wait. With the show being available in over 10 languages, having major success in 150 countries, and massive worldwide acclaim in all forms of entertainment from the show to video games and of course the toy market, this has easily been the most requested show that I cover here on the channel. So what better way than to jump into the multi-animation style show than mix my 2D self with a live-action friend?
Yeah, this is Billiam.
Yeah, it is. And today on both of our channels, we are teaming up to enter the world of Code Lyoko, explore a bunch of what the show and beyond had to offer, and maybe, just maybe, see about getting some forehead extensions of our own. We're beautiful.
Oh, okay.
No need to worry, Jeremy. We're used to this.
Okay, so we're gonna be glazing Code Lyoko here. I like that. I like that.
Now a word from our sponsor.
Thank you to
Ooh, that's super nice to see your head. The W.
Our main focus in the show is this group of friends that are all very different but bring a lot to the table in terms of skill and knowledge. Jeremy is the tech aficionado of the group, often compared to a genius given the Einstein poster in his room. That's always a clear sign. He's the one that controls the jump to the virtual reality of Lyoko and oversees his friends in their intense battles with various monsters that roam the land. While he doesn't actively fight in Lyoko,
Okay. To be fair, I could give you this whole breakdown already. Look. As you said, Jeremy, our boy in the chair, our man on the phone, our comms, our hacker, our support, the GOAT, before Dr. Stone, you had Jerry motherfucking, I think his name is like Auburn or something like that. I might just be confusing it with Ludwig. Oh god. But yes, our lover boy, the first E thirst trapped by the E girl. Yeah, so our boy Jeremy. They all have like French last names and whatnot. Yes, Jeremy was the boy that founded the computer and everything. He's our boy that, figured out how to, digitize everybody, virtualize everybody, set up everybody's characters, gave them their special abilities and all that. Like he's the GOAT. Like especially for his age, boy, you can't mess with our boy here. Jeremy also, obviously fell in love with aHEAD at first sight. Like he was the one that was like, look, we gotta get her out of there. If we can virtualize y'all, that means we can bring her out of there. He needed her. he saw that he hadn't even been into the world yet. But yeah, they find her, she's stranded and everything, and there are these towers that they have to, essentially hack into, that Xana's hacking into, and they have to like diffuse, so to stop his influence in the real world. Like it's really crazy that like how this virtual world that they affected, essentially like that they shows, like it seems to be like sub hubs or servers, and they essentially give him access to like the internet and whatnot, which allows him to travel out of the virtual world into the real world and like affect the actual technology there. Because like as the seasons go on further, like you find out that these towers that they go to, that you see her like here and here, are like underneath them eventually lead you to the vast internet, which is like an ocean essentially. It's super cool. But let's get back to our characters real fast. So yeah, so we had our boy Jeremy, the brains. Then you've got Ulrich. Oh my god, I said Ulrich. aHEAD. Jesus. Then you've got our boy aHEAD, who, yes, is straight up just aHEAD. He's got his dog, his little pup, with our little mascot. Oh my god, I can't think of his dog's name for some reason right now. He's alright. God, I want to say he's one of like the first cat boys that I remember before, like outside of like anime shit or whatever. This is our comedic relief. Oh yeah, there's his little pup right there. He's our comedic relief pup everywhere and always. His boy's always on some wild, wacky shit. Yes. My boy, he's got the where's his cat boy section at? Yes. Yo, they really went. I don't know why they went so crazy on his. I don't know why they went so crazy with his fit. It's like everything. He's already like cat themed, and then he's got the fucking shin guards that have got cat whiskers and everything. He shoots arrows and shit. Odd as fire as fuck as well. Ulrich and Yumi, the two lovers. Where are you? Let's see. Can't forget Jim as well, but we'll talk about. Here's fucking Yumi's mom. There we go. Ulrich and Yumi. Oh my god, these are the two most annoying people because they're just annoying. Like they play this whole ploy between the two of them where like it's like the will they or won't they thing, where like they obviously like each other, but because this annoying ass girl, what is her name, Missy, the fucking principal's daughter, has a huge ass crush on Ulrich. It always causes all this tension between Yumi and them, when even though they know that he does not fuck with this girl in the slightest, like he hates her guts and tells her to her face on every chance he gets. She walks up to him and says, "Hi, Ulrich, bitch, get out of my face!" Like on some real shit. God damn. And so it's like for seasons, it's like this whole will they or won't they bullshit, and then it gets fucking ruined by they shoehorned it even more. Did they show William yet, or is that like somebody they get into late? But essentially, they finally get a new a member aside from aHEAD at some point, and this fucker it's literally one of those situations where like they talk about where like superheroes like, they don't tell anybody about your secret identity or whatever because yada yada yada. It was literally one of those with Yumi. She finds her a whole new boo because her and Ulrich just cannot figure this shit out. Like it's insane and it's pissing everybody. It's pissing me off still. And so she goes with the next gruff detached, well, I wouldn't even say detached because William is like super sweet when he initially starts off. Like he starts are super sweet. He's like communicative. He's like very upfront, whatever, yada yada. And he instantly gets involved with the fucking crew and like Code Lyoko and everything. Like she tells him everything about the world or whatnot. He comes to join them and instantly gets fucking wiped. Like I'm sure they'll get into that later, but like these two are so fucking annoying. I hate I think I dislike them together as a unit. Like whenever their whole stories cross, it's the most annoying episodes. But like cuz it's like just fucking date. Like it's the most unnecessary melodrama in that I've ever seen. But that aside, let's finally get to our material girl, as Jerome puts it. aHEAD, the OGE girl. Literally. aHEAD, Queen Bee. As we find, after, as I was saying before, with like they initially think she's an AI program created by the creator of the supercomputer and everything, and come to find out that she's actually a person that was trapped in here. Like I forget as far as the story goes, if it was like years that she's been in the actual like computer system or whatnot, or what have you, but she's essentially trapped in there, and so it becomes, instead of like them just trying to figure out how to bring a computer program into the world, they're trying to figure out how to virtualize her, because apparently like she's stuck, like she can't just devirtualize like the rest of them, because it's been like assumed this whole time, like out of everybody, when they die in that world, in the Code Lyoko world, they just get sent back to the real world. Like I think they do feel like they're like exhausted essentially, but like they don't have any like actual damage to themselves. But apparently like aHEAD would like die if she were to die. There's William. Yeah. There's William. This is the fucker that literally shows up, shoehorns. I mean, they were throwing fucking horseshoes at each other in the first place, but this really like takes the cake, because like as soon as this thing gets involved, he instantly gets bodied and possessed and becomes an evil person from then on. I think like then it becomes like a race to like try to save William while also trying to destroy Xana finally. Like they are in like, it's prime time. Like this final like few seasons, they didn't found where Xana's located. They didn't found the sector of like where his base is. Like he's been the guy that he shows up whenever he wants to, and just wreaks havoc all this time. Then they finally found like a new section of the virtual world and whatnot, and found out where the big bad is hiding. So they're like collecting everything to finally end this drama and get rid of this virus for good. And Yumi decides to shoehorn some bullshit into this, where now she's in love. So yeah, I gotta tell Williams gets too involved, so he gets brought in.
The second season, we are also introduced to William, a loner kid who sparks a romance with Yumi in conflict with Ulrich. He was kicked out of his last school for leaving love letters all around. Hopeless romantic or weird creep? That's up for you to decide.
No. To get kicked out of your school for leaving romantic letters around, that's creepy. Because it had to be the most excessive shit. Because like if it was just like, yeah, you tried to like do some one girl or whatever, yada yada, nobody would care. But if you got kicked out of your school for this, then yeah, what were you on?
Character is pretty interesting in general though, as he is full of angst and eventually joining on to the group thanks to the majority of them accepting him in to fight alongside them, especially since Xana is growing stronger and the help is greatly needed. Though even at one point when William is helping, Xana takes control of his body and mind, turning him into a temporary villain until he was freed later on. To avoid suspicion at their school in the meantime, Jeremy is able to create a clone essentially to fill in for him based on downloaded memories, and the clone becomes the opposite of a loner. In fact, he becomes quite popular, which sets up more of the school-based situations. It's like several shows at once, combining the thrilling 3D animated action and 2D moody school drama. The voice acting, aside from the animation, is the first thing you'll notice, as it definitely seemed like a mixed bag of characters that didn't feel like they were all in the same place talking to one another.
I don't have frog's legs, that's just the way I walk!
Why are you yelling? Well, at least I can watch the French version.
De pièces mécaniques, de circuits électriques qui pourraient sans doute me...
Great, now I gotta read.
After all, it is.
Actually, I didn't even think about that. It is probably like with anime, since it wasn't like French was the original format. This is just technically a dub for the English. So that's why he's yelling. Like, it doesn't really have anything to do with the actual show. It's just like when fucking anime gets an English, trash English voice actor. And he's like, okay, well, why are you even, why are you talking like this? Or like, this is, you obviously didn't really put much effort to it, whatever. Not to say that I think didn't really put effort in. It's just, I guess, different stylings in this point. But like, I do wonder what the actual French, the original French actually sounds like. Since like, yeah, it's a French show, so I'm assuming it would be so much better. But I don't know if it would be worth it.
Good job.
to watch.
Join the battle against Santa,
Check out
Code
the
Lyoko
French
style. Join us. The fate of Lyoko is up to you.
The animation style, or styles, is probably the most recognizable thing about the show. The settings and backgrounds are beautifully painted with a soft detail that is associated with Japanese anime while keeping a uniquely French aspect to it, drawing a lot of influence from Serial Experiments Lane, a late 90s anime that has quite a bit of the same themes we see from Code Lyoko, only a bit darker. You can notice a lot of the color palettes resemble the look of the show in spirit, as well as the technology in general with how it looks and operates. The characters are heavily stylized with large foreheads, and, oh yeah, large foreheads. Sorry, I literally can't see past the large foreheads because they are blocking the view. Funny, for something like Oban Star Racers, we talked about the distinct feature of having no noses. And here in Code Lyoko, the distinctive feature is having enough room to play tic-tac-toe between someone's eyes and hairline. There is something that connects that though, which we will go into shortly. And I'm not talking about the tic-tac-toe connection, I'm talking about Oban Star Racers to Code Lyoko. It should definitely be noted though that this show was one of the first shows to utilize the combination of both 2D and 3D animation, which is something that is a bit of a controversial decision in the animation community. Most times having 3D assets on a 2D landscape is something that stands out aggressively and for some can ruin the scenes it's utilized in. However, this show separates the two by one being the real world and the other a digital one, which is a pretty smart way to...
Like that, they play it well. Like, it's weird when you do, like, you know, you got like a 2D fucking character running around and then the fucking 3D car is thrown at them. And then now all of a sudden when they dodge the car, they're also in 3D for like 3 seconds and then they're back to 2D. Like, that's just so jarring and unnecessary. Or you have like the 3D models moving on a 2D plane and you're like, this for some reason looks super weird. And like, unless you do like some, like, you know, After Effects in it and moving and imaging and whatnot that, like, you know, changes the orientation and viewpoint, it just looks off because of like the modeling that you have for like the 3D. So unless you do like something stylizing to it, it just doesn't come out nice. But like you said, since they split it up to like the digital world being, you know, the 3D model style, so perfect.
corporate at all. It's like how in Breaking Bad we know when the scenes are in New Mexico versus the scenes that take place in Mexico based on the shots in Mexico being just very yellow. Now you have to remember that this was the early 2000s where 3D animation was still early on for a lot of the cartoons jumping on board with it. It would be cheaper to animate than standard 2D animation, but came at a cost sometimes, with the most apparent thing in the show being the almost wasteland-esque feelings that lifeless 3D environments would often bring. That's not to say that the show didn't offer some really awesome 3D action in more detailed environments, it's just that it becomes more noticeable the more you watch. Contrasting with how detailed and nicely colored the 2D world's environments are, it just sticks out like how cool and interesting Billiam's live-action backdrop looks, and my teal backdrop with floating particles. Maybe I should hang up a picture or something. Ah, there we go.
No, that is fair, because like when you saw them running through, like, cause like like you said, since like the 2D and 3D animated portions of the show, one being like Code Lyoko and then the one being the real world, during the show there's like typically like two stories going on. You might have like some subplots going on between like some other characters or whatnot, but mainly you have the two stories. There's one happening in the Code Lyoko and then the actual like story happening in the real world or whatnot, and how the thing that's happening in Code Lyoko affects that. So, you know, you have like how the episode starts with them in the real world going to class and having like some, you know, regular school drama or whatever, and then they get a notification that Xana's attacking. So now they have to, I mean, because they're all in school and whatnot, they all go to like a private, like sort of like a boarding school, like on some Zoe 101 shit. They stay on campus and everything. So, you know, they're in the middle of classes and shit, so all of them just can't disappear all of a sudden and just go, even though they can just like, you know, revert to the past. So I don't get why, but I guess they don't want people to be coming looking for them as well, because this is literally like the fucking supercomputer that has the fucking power to control time is like down the street from the school. In all honesty, like it's really not far. Like they do this dope ass let me see if I can find it. They do this dope ass I love the transition when they go to the factory. They do a whole, every time they do like their travel scene where like, oh yeah, we've been called into Xana. It's sort of like their Power Rangers scene where like the Zords are being brought to the landscape and everything.
The characters and concept had taken a while to develop. Creators Tanya Palumbo and Thomas Romain were both attending the Goblin School of Visual Communication and Arts in France. Contrary to popular belief, it's not a school where they teach you to go goblin mode, unfortunately. The two of them created the animated short that runs just under a minute titled Les enfants font leur cinéma, which in English translates to The Children Make Their Movies. The short depicts a young boy running through the streets of what looks like a dystopic and dilapidated city. He delivers a roll of film to a group of children that have gathered together in an abandoned building. They have created a movie theater setup. Many of the children there that we see look exactly like the characters we would also see in Garage Kids and get to know and love in Code Lyoko. Garage Kids would have been the next step in their process. After their short premiered at the International Film Festival of Annecy in 2000, they were approached and started to begin production on Garage Kids, which premiered in 2001. This next short was a bit longer, with a 5-minute runtime. We get to hear the characters speak and see the bones of the story and setting that Code Lyoko adapts. With a virtual reality as well, this short is very much like Code Lyoko with a few differences. The main one being the changes in Lyoko, which isn't even called Lyoko, it's called Xanadu. So here's a little bit of a history lesson into where this word comes from. Kublai Khan, the 5th Khangan emperor of the Mongol Empire. Xanadu is actually the name of a location, specifically the summer capital of the Yun dynasty, also known as Shangdu. The location itself was popularized in modern vocabulary with the help of poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge in 1816. In his poem titled Kublai Khan, there he metaphorically refers to Xanadu as an idyllic and opulent place. Today, Xanadu serves as the name for a series of experimental homes that were built in the late 1970s, with the purpose of computers being used in houses. In modern day, we would call them smart houses, and to an extent, some of us live in some form of these type of houses today. Well, I'm still terrified of smarter than me houses since the movie Smart House had Leela torture a single
Smart
father
House.
and his kids. So it seems that technology has adopted the concept a bit more in terms of Xanadu being a utopia, which seemingly would fit right into the computer-generated virtual reality. If only Xanadu or Lyoko weren't as terrifying and monster-ridden as it was. It could be that the reality is named ironically, but I would prefer to speculate that it was initially created to be a virtual utopia that the Xana malware or virus has since then corrupted, now known as a failed utopia or a temporary dystopia soon to be cleansed by the Lyoko warriors. Xanadu is also speculated to be where our main villain Xana gets their name from. Written frequently in an acronymic form, fans have speculated and thrown out guesses after guesses of what it could truly mean. But the fact of the matter is, no one really knows. In an interview with writer Sophie de Cressette, she admits that by the time she started working on the series, a lot of the characters were already named by Tanya and Thomas, the original creators. This included Xana, but then again, as Xana could be the product of Xanadu itself, they most likely got his name from a developing concept of their old virtual reality in Garage Kids. So the acronym is just kind of left in the air to what it really means. Other differences between Xanadu and Lyoko are in size. Lyoko is vast, multi-biome landscape with different terrains, whereas Xanadu is mainly referring to a small bit of land held up by cords and cables, with a few scattered towers on top. Lyoko has smaller, yet more spread out towers, that total to about 85, most likely to make it more interesting, given that our main characters have to enter and do something new and interesting in every episode. The changes in production from Garage Kids to Code Lyoko actually resulted in creator Thomas Romain leaving in the pre-production process, due to differing opinions as to how the project should go, as well as pursuing some of his other interests. He left and began to work on other various anime and shows like Oban Star Racers, for example. See, there was
so
a
that's
reason
where
I
the
brought that
connection-
up earlier. Before leaving though, he did spend time working on the show's literary and graphical bible with Tanya, in order to make sure the look of the show and the story have an actual path to follow along. Tanya, on the other hand, did stick a little
that's the
closer to
sewer-
the
they were
series,
traveling
but took
to
a
the
step back
actual-
similar to Thomas and continued to help just with artistic direction and creative management. In fact, the initial fans of the
designs
show
are so
helped
fire,
shape
too.
and mold the future of Code Lyoko past season 1, where the creators would get in touch with the audience hearing out their thoughts and wants through online message boards, which actually turned into the series Bible, translating into some pretty cool things like the general concept of the Lyoko warriors being called the Lyoko Warriors. Yeah, the fans of the show adopted calling them that name before it would even be used in an official way in the show itself. A very risky but cool way the writer Sophie de Cressette and director Jeremy Muscadet found a way to keep fans involved beyond just being supportive, and in return giving back a little bit of fan service. Once the series Bible is set, changing it during the show's run is something that can easily get very messy and result in it all falling apart, but the changes ended up being for the better.
Okay.
Code Lyoko would be a part of the Maguzi animation block on Cartoon Network as a way to fulfill the weekday mid-afternoon lack of Toonami, which had switched over to being a Saturday night cartoon and anime block. The Maguzi block would include a large range of different shows, in which Billiam will be deep diving more into what Maguzi is and what it encompassed.
And I won't even need a snorkel. I'm much more accustomed to the pinch nose method.
But for Code Lyoko's time on the air during its 4th season, the final 7 episodes were never aired on Cartoon Network, but rather distributed online only on Cartoon Network's website. If your access to the show in the States was only catching it on TV, you were left with only questions. And in 2007, the internet was still in its infancy with hosting
trying to
videos
think if I
compared
ever
to
actually
where we're
finished
at
the show.
today. What was the main cause of this? It's different from not getting renewed or canceled. The ending to the animated show for many was just simply taken away from TVs. It doesn't even seem to be for ratings or toys, which I'll touch on those a little bit later, but for the fact that a singular Cartoon Network executive just didn't like the show. Simple as that, which is wild considering how close it was to just finishing its 4th season. Why not just, I don't know, wait a tiny bit longer? You have this amazing Tron and Matrix inspired show with incredible, cool, and unique character design, and you take that away from me? That's just cruel. Well, another thing that could have been an issue is some of the content in the show. While being rated as TV Y7 in the US, this was a French show in which they are a lot more chill about certain things being in their their shows, which is why there are more risque shots or more mature moments. Although a lot of the show remained untouched, some parts were cut for the violence being too much and would push past the rating, and even some nudity-related reasons like aHEAD exposing himself or being in control of Yumi's body and making her kiss Ulrich. Yeah, I understand why those didn't make the final cut. Moonscoop themselves made that decision. But in general, the show, still here in the US, was cut just a tad short from nearing the end of season 4. Sure, you could find them online if you knew about it, but it still was a weird way to handle what would be the end of the show. So before we look into the future of Code Lyoko post the original animated series, we need to go back and get some answers about the world of Lyoko and how our Lyoko warriors came together in the first place.
I couldn't care less.
Moonscoop Distribution presents Code Lyoko.
And now back to Code Lyoko.
Halfway through Code Lyoko's run of 4 seasons, we were given a 2-part prequel titled
We already know there. We already stated how they found the supercomputer. This before aHEAD even started wearing his hair up. Long story short, essentially they find the supercomputer. Well, Jeremy finds it first and ventures through. He immediately gets in contact with Aelita, who's in a tower, and she starts getting chased by people. That's when they send in, I think Ulrich's like the first, Oz the first one to get sent in. And so Jeremy's on like this time crunch to try to save Aelita. I believe Yumi is like chasing down Ulrich and everything, and then Missy is chasing down Ulrich as well because she sees her more than Yumi. That becomes a whole thing. So the teachers and everything are chasing them down. Xana starts attacking. It's all good times. He finds out he can send them back to the past. And they
After the show's 4th season ended, there were still a few unanswered questions and plot holes that hadn't been addressed. Fans were overjoyed on May 31st, 2011 when Code Lyoko Evolution was announced. The reboot continuation revival aired the following year on December 12th, 2012. Fans were surprised to see that the style decision for depicting the physical world was not animation at all, but live action, just like Billiam over there. Although the 3D computer animation had noticeably been improved when they were in Lyoko, fans were still unimpressed by the changes that the series made in Evolutions. Many people have expressed that the live action takes away from the charm that the initial 4 seasons had. There was also a noticeable difference in how the characters acted. The characters we knew and loved had changed a bit. I actually thought that the casting was fairly impressive and true to what the animated versions of them looked like, minus the mile-long foreheads. But regardless, they still acted out of character, which made the series a bit more difficult to enjoy. A lot of fans have decided to reject the reboot due to it being off-putting, and also because it introduced even more plot holes and didn't do anything to tie together where the animation left off, especially as the series acted as a continuation 1 year later post-season 4. Instead, there was a series of 4 books called Code Lyoko Chronicles that were released in 2009 and 2010. The series of books were introduced to pick up after season 4 and in a way to address and fill in plot holes from the animated series. With the books, however, they were all released only in Italian even though the show was originally French, only having the first 2 books out of the 4 translated into French. At least the toy market across Code Lyoko was pretty booming across the planet, similar to how massive the toy and merchandise market was for Totally Spies around the world, just not as successful as that. But still not a thing to be overlooked. Many of these toys being split in between regions as exclusives, never releasing outside of various countries. Stuff like action figures, remote control characters, travel bags, DVDs, glassware, keychains, magazines, bikes, Beyblade ripoffs, cell phone attachments, bedspreads, winter gear, heck, a fake computer to fulfill your Lyoko exploration needs. The interface of the Code Lyoko supercomputer, or IFSCL. Wow, that title makes a lot of sense. Thanks to the Reloaded concept in general announced in 2008, there was a lot more planned in terms of the TV show. A leaked document in 2011 revealed that originally the Reloaded concept housed the idea for the revival reboot continuation to just be like the original series. Part 2D and part 3D animation, only now picking back up with the characters in high school to further both their digital and physical arcs. Sadly, this idea never came to fruition, and instead their other idea they were working on fully came to be, which was Code Lyoko Evolutions.
Oh god. Code Lyoko did not go quietly into that sweet night. Okay. I was hoping we'd get, more into why it was so suddenly dropped from those networks and everything, like especially like with the essentially the end of that season actually being out there, why it wasn't actually put through like to television or whatnot. Maybe it just wasn't popular enough for American audiences for them to finish it here. But yeah, no, that reboot, no thank you. I mean, the animation side, it looked pretty cool. I can't lie about that. I honestly kind of preferred the giant foreheads or whatnot. Maybe that's just my bias, nostalgia bias or whatnot. But as far as like the actual show went, the story was super cool. Like you come to find out that aHEAD's father is the guy who created the supercomputer. So that's how she initially gets trapped in there, is that people found out, or like the people he was working for with initially, that possibly funded his research and inventions or whatnot, were after him and his daughter. Well, after him in particular, and he had his daughter or whatnot. So to try to protect her, he brought her to Lyoko. And I think he also like was making Lyoko like for her as well. So like since they couldn't get to them there, I guess they didn't know where his secret lab was either. Because obviously nobody ever comes to it or whatever. So that's like a big portion that you find out. Like was it Franz Hopper or something? I still remember some of those those plot points or whatnot. But yeah, like I said, it comes. I'm gonna have to revisit because, like I said, I don't really remember the ending. I'm feeling like I missed those last like 7 episodes because I don't think I was watching it on. Maybe I was watching online at some point, but I don't think I've ever rewatched the series. So I might have to give this a revisit just to because I think start back up on this series not too long ago, like maybe like 2-3 years ago. I had like started rewatching it. Just because like I wanted to revisit the story, but I didn't get really. I don't think I got through full. I might have gotten through season 1. Because yeah, like you said, I just remember like there was so much of like seasons 3 and 4 that I kind of missed because like they started exploring. Like I said, it gets crazy. Like it starts off with first they're trying to save aHEAD, who they named Maya at first, and then they kind of find out her real name's aHEAD and all that. So they're trying to pull her out of the computer program, then find out that she's actually a human. So now we really need to get her out. They finally get her out of the computer system and everything. And now she's like able to be in the real world and whatnot. They make her a whole alibi in life or whatever. And so as that's all going on, Xana in particular is like trying to get to aHEAD for some reason. Like he wants her specifically for once, or needs her for some reason, it seems. So they're unlocking more secrets about Franz Hopper, her dad, and everything, and about Xana, and like unlocking newer areas. And Xana does eventually like get stronger, where he can like not only take over like multiple towers at once, but like he starts like getting rid of towers and whatnot. And so like what is it? I know like they find like a whole new section, like I said, where like every episode it's like spent with them going to like those tree areas, that like those towered areas that look like trees. You have to get aHEAD there so she can like cleanse the tower and get Xana out of it essentially. So all those towers, you couldn't find out like she's been able to like use those towers to like transport between the worlds, because like each world is like a biome. Like you go into it's like, oh, this is the ice biome, oh, this is the forest biome, oh, this is the mountain biome, like all that stuff is like. And so like for her to travel between the biomes, they have like the in-world aspect of like she can go to one of the towers and she just like jumps off the side essentially, and she comes up at another one of the biomes or whatever. It gets crazy. Come to find out, they find and be like Jeremy programs like weapons and new weapons, but vehicles into it, and like they find there's like a whole ocean underneath those towers and whatnot. Like the whole like the water that you see in like at each level from the mountains to the snowy areas, like that's an actual ocean or whatever. And like under there is like where they find out it's like there's further way to like get towards where Xana is and everything. So that's where they finally find Xana. They introduce William and all that. He instantly gets bodied and possessed, and he's possessed for a while. Like they make it seem like he's not, like he just kind of comes back. Like I felt like I don't even. I do think they did finally get him back, but it was still like a matter of like, is he actually back or is he still like sleeper agent shit? Because I think he might even have left the school at some point or whatever. But yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna have to check that show out again because Code Lyoko is honestly a sleeper hit. I definitely now want to check out those books as well to see if they tied up any loose ends and see like if they actually gave an ending and everything. Because yeah, like I said, I don't think I saw those 7 or so episodes that was never released. But I did always think that the show was like somewhat riskier than it seemed like most cartoons was. And that makes more sense of why, since it was from like the French side, it was they on that freaky dicky. Okay. All right, that's what we'll end that one. Thanks you, YouTube. We'll check y'all later in the anime section. I think we're switching up to now. Oh boy, you thought I was yapping in this one. Just wait. Thank you for watching now. Catch y'all next time.